You think movement is free. It isn't. You think it expands. It doesn't. You think it stays open once it exists. It doesn't. You think more movement creates more freedom. It doesn't. You think openness can be sustained. It can't. It looks unrestricted. It looks continuous. It looks like it can go anywhere. It can't. Movement is not freedom. It is direction under constraint. This is Achronic, a long-form documentary series about power, geography, and time. Not events, not heroes, not chronology, structures that outlast empires. What appears as open movement is only movement that has not yet been compressed. It is temporary. It is unstable. It is already being shaped. Movement does not remain open. It narrows, not suddenly, gradually. Every path that forms begins to attract flow, and once flow concentrates, the path changes. It becomes defined. It becomes predictable. It becomes constrained. The more movement passes through a path, the less open it becomes. Because movement leaves structure behind. It creates patterns. It reinforces direction. It reduces variation. Over time, movement stops exploring. It starts repeating, and repetition creates limitation. What once allowed many directions begins to favor only a few, not by restriction, by efficiency. Movement aligns with what is easier, what is faster, what requires less resistance, and in doing so, it abandons alternatives. This is how openness disappears, not because it is closed, because it is outperformed. Paths do not need to be blocked to disappear. They only need to become less efficient, less reliable, less used, less aligned. And once they are no longer used, they no longer exist as movement, only as possibility. And possibility is not movement. Movement requires selection, and selection reduces openness. Every system that allows movement begins to organize it. It channels it, it directs it, it stabilizes it. And stability is the end of openness, because stability depends on repetition, and repetition excludes variation. Over time, movement becomes predictable. It follows the same routes. It passes through the same points. It avoids deviation. Not because deviation is impossible, because it is inefficient, and inefficiency disappears, not by removal, by disuse. This is why movement feels open at first, because options exist, but options are not sustained. They are tested, and most fail. What remains is not openness, it is selection. This is where perception fails, because the system still appears open, but it no longer behaves that way. It behaves as a network of preferred paths, where movement is guided, not free, where direction is shaped, not chosen, where outcomes are influenced, not random. This is not control imposed from outside. It is structure emerging from repetition. Every movement reinforces its own path. Every repetition makes alternatives less relevant. Every alignment reduces possibility, until what remains feels natural, unavoidable, inevitable. This is how movement becomes constrained without being restricted. This is how openness disappears without being removed. The system does not close movement, it organizes it. And organization requires reduction. Reduction of options, reduction of paths, reduction of variation. Movement does not remain open. It converges, it compresses, it stabilizes. And once it stabilizes, it cannot return to openness, because stability creates dependency. Systems begin to rely on established paths. They optimize around them. They reinforce them. They protect them. And in doing so, they eliminate alternatives. Not intentionally, structurally. This is why disruption feels sudden, because openness was already gone. Only the structure remained. And when the structure fails, there is nothing open to replace it. Movement does not return to freedom. It reorganizes again. It finds new paths, new alignments, new constraints, and the process repeats. Openness, selection, compression, again and again and again. Movement never escapes this cycle because it is not designed to remain open. It is designed to become efficient, and efficiency eliminates openness. Efficiency rewards repetition. It punishes deviation. It removes what is not aligned. Over time, movement becomes narrower even as it becomes faster, more direct, more predictable, more constrained. This is the hidden cost of optimization. Speed increases, freedom decreases, range expands, options collapse. This is not contradiction, it is structure. Movement does not become more open as it grows. It becomes more defined, more controlled, more limited, even when it appears unlimited. This is why expansion creates compression, because every expansion introduces new alignment, and every alignment reduces variation. This is how systems mature, not by remaining open, but by eliminating what is unnecessary. And what is unnecessary includes most possible paths. This is why movement feels expansive only at the beginning, because nothing has been selected yet. But once selection begins, openness ends, and everything that follows is refinement, not expansion. This is where tension becomes visible, because movement begins to resist itself. It slows in certain directions. It accelerates in others. It becomes uneven. Not because something changed externally, because structure has formed internally. Movement creates its own limits. It generates the conditions that restrict it. It builds the paths that will later confine it. And once those paths are established, they define everything that follows. You do not move freely. You move along what has already been reinforced, what has already been selected, what has already been optimized, and what has already been optimized cannot be open, because it has already chosen its direction. And once direction is chosen, everything else becomes inaccessible, not removed, just no longer part of movement. And once it is no longer part of movement, it no longer exists in the system. And what you call openness was only the absence of structure. And structure always arrives. And once it does, movement is no longer exploration. It is execution. It is repetition. It is alignment. It is inevitability. And once it becomes inevitable, it was never open to begin with.